Hello, hope you guys are doing well today. This is our last week of instruction for the fourth grade, so you have made it to the end and we're going to finish strong this year. Our last new concept, which isn't really a new concept for us since we've done it in the third grade, is elapsed time. If you have not watched the Brain Pop video about elapsed time, I would like for you to do that. It just basically gives you an overview of what is elapsed time. Well, that word elapsed really means the time from the start to the finish of something. If you go to the movies, the time that has elapsed while you're there is the time that you were at the movies, from the time you got there until the time that you left. Lots of different things that we do during the day involve elapsed time. So hopefully you have printed this out. If not, that's okay. You can get out your math journal and a pencil and you can do this along with me today. But what I've done is I've made some elapsed time notes for you today. Our I can statement is at the top and it says, I can determine how much time has elapsed between a start and end time, or tell the start and end time given another time and the elapsed time. That sounds like a lot, sounds a little bit complicated, but basically what it means is that you can use time to tell how much time has passed in between two times, or you can figure out starting and ending time if you know the elapsed time and the time that the event started or ended. So let's get down and dirty with this. In your notes, you're going to write this down, that there are three types of elapsed time problems. And we're going to go over all three of those today, and then you're going to see them in your problem set. All right, the first one says you know the start time and the end time, and you need to determine the elapsed time. So that means I know a start time and an end time, and I want to know how many hours and minutes have happened in between those two times. The second type of elapsed time is you know the start time and you know the elapsed time, and you need to know the end time. That's what you're trying to figure out. So in those types of problems, you're going to be given a start time and how long the activity took, and then you have to use that information to figure out the end time. And then the third type of problem is just the opposite of the second one. In these problems, you know the end time and you know the elapsed time, and you need to determine the start time. All right, we are going to see these problems at work in our sheet today. And they might be mixed up in order down here. We're going to see if we can figure out what the problems are asking and what type of problem we are using. And then we're going to use a number line or the arrow way to help us determine elapsed time. Now, let's think for a second about the arrow way. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to do a couple of different things with the arrow way just to remind us of what that is. So the arrow way is a great way of figuring out the difference between two things. So let's say that I have the problem, let's say 15 minus 5. Well, that's pretty easy. I'm going to start with 5 and I'm going to think, what do I need to add to 5 to get to 15? Well, I know I need to add 10. So that is going to be my answer. Last week we worked on adding and subtracting with mixed numbers, and we used that same arrow way. And so we're going to use that this week when we determine elapsed time. We also need to remember time in general. So I've got my little clock here, and just a quick reminder, when we're working with an analog clock, we've got the two hands. We have the hour, which is the short hand, and the minute, which is the long hand. We know that there are 60 minutes in an hour. And most of the time, we're going to be counting time in 5-minute increments in the fourth grade. We also need to remember that there's two times of day, AM and PM. And once the clock has come back to 12 o'clock PM, PM, that starts the middle of the day. And we begin these hours over again until we get 12 AM at midnight, which starts the next day. So today on our problems, we're going to be using a number line, but I'm also going to show you what it looks like on the clock. just to give you a little extra help. Okay, so type 1. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be type 1 up here. We're just going to see. We're going to use 3 different types of elapsed time problems, and we are going to solve them using a number line in our clock. So I'm also going to link a clock on Canvas, an interactive clock that can help you as well if you need that, if you don't have one of these at home, which I'm guessing that you probably don't, so that's okay. All right, so our first problem, we're going to read it first, and then we're going to decide which type of problem it is. Cody started looking for his missing cat at 4:35. If he found it at 7:50, how long did he spend looking? Okay, I can see that he started at 4:35 and he ended at 7:50. So on this one, I have a start time and an end time. This is type 1. I actually don't need to find the start time or the end time. I need to find the elapsed time, and that's the time in between these two times. So we're definitely not going to set this up like an addition problem. It does not work that way. I think the arrow way or the number line way is the best way. So what we're going to do is we're going to think, okay, I'm going to start at 4:35, and I know I'm going to end at 7:50. So I'm going to get my clock set up here to 4:35. My hour hand is in between the 4 and the 5, and my minute hand is on 35. Now, one of the things that really helps me when I do the arrow ways, I want to try to get to the next hour because I want to try to use a benchmark. I want to try to get to that next hour because that's going to help me a lot as I start to figure out elapsed time. So I need to figure out how many minutes it's going to take me to get to that next hour. And the next hour would be 5 o'clock. So I'm going to think how many minutes will it take me to get from 4:35 until 5 o'clock. I'm going to use my clock to do this, but I can also think, basically when I get up here to 60, that's my next hour. So I can count by 5s from 35 to 60, and that's going to tell me how many minutes it will take to get me to 5 o'clock. So let's do that together. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So I'm going to show right here from 4:35 to 5 o'clock gives me 25 minutes. But I'm trying to get to 7:50. Now that I'm at 5 o'clock, this is a really easy number to work with. It's a really easy time because it's a straight up hour. So I know I need to figure out how long it's going to take me to get to the next hour. Now, I don't want to stop at 6 o'clock because I can keep on going, but I know I could do 1 hour from 5 to 6, and then I could do another hour from 6 to 7. So I've just added 2 hours, and that got me to 7 o'clock. Okay. Now the next thing I need to do is I need to figure out how many minutes it's going to take to get me to 7:50. Well, that's pretty easy. From 7 o'clock to 7:50 is 50 minutes. Okay, now I want to put all of this together, but I have to be careful because there's only 60 minutes in an hour. So I have to think to myself, can I put any of my minutes together to make another hour? And the answer is yes, I definitely can. If I have 50 minutes, I only need 10 more minutes to get to another hour. So I'm just going to take a few of my minutes off here. I'm going to think, okay, if I take 10 minutes off of 25, that'll give me 15. And if I add 10 minutes to 50 minutes, that will give me 60 minutes or 1 hour. Now I'm going to put the parts together that I have used in my arrows. I've got 1 hour plus 1 hour, which is 2 hours, plus 15 minutes. So I can say Cody spent 3 hours, 15 minutes. Now, how you solve this is really up to you. If you want to go back to what I did on my clock, you sure can. Let me go back to 4:35. I could do it this way if I wanted to. I could say, all right, from 4:35 to 5:35 is an hour. From 5:35 to 6:35 is an hour. Still going. From 6:35 to 7:35 is an hour. So that was 3 hours. And I want to go up here to 7:50. So this is 3 hours plus 5, 10, 15 minutes. So I can do that using a number line, or I can use that using a clock. So if you choose to use the clock today, you just need to open the window with the clock in it into a different tab on your internet browser, so that you can go back and forth between the clock and your Canvas work today. All right, let's move on to the next one. The next type of problem, let's see if we can figure out which type it is. Tiffany was helping her mom cook dinner. If they finished at 9:20, wow, that's pretty late. They're going to be eating at night. And they spent 3 hours and 35 minutes cooking. What time did they start? Well, they must be on a holiday, because I don't know anybody that eats at 9:20 and cooks for 3 hours and 35 minutes unless it's maybe somebody on Christmas or Thanksgiving. They're going to be hungry people. All right. I see right here that they finished at 9:20, and we know how long it took them. So this is one where we need to find the start time. And I can see that right here. What time did they start? So this one gets to work a little bit differently. On this one, I have to think my unknown is at the beginning, and I know that 9:20 is at the end. So this time I have to work backwards. So I know that they worked and they ended at 9:20. So I'm going to put my clock, I'm going to set it up at 9:20. And I'm going to go backwards 3 hours. So I'm going to think from 9:20 to 8:20 is an hour. I'm going to mark that on my number line that I'm going back 1 hour. From 8:20 to 7:20 is another hour. And I've got to take off 3 hours, so I've got 1 more hour to go. And from 7:20 to 6:20 is another hour. All right, now I've got to take off 35 minutes. So I'm now at 6:20 and I have to subtract 35 minutes. Well, I know I can subtract my 20 minutes and get me to 6 o'clock. This is going to take me longer than I thought. But I need to take off 35 minutes, and I've only taken off 20 minutes, so I need to subtract another 15 minutes. So that's actually going to put me before 6 o'clock. So I'm going to subtract 15 minutes. 5, 10, 15. I want you to remember from the earlier grades, it almost looks like that this time would be 6:45, but it's not, because we've already seen 6 o'clock. We're going before 6 o'clock. So this time is actually 5:45. So Tiffany and her mom cooked dinner, and they started at 5:45, and I can see the 3 hours and 35 minutes that they spent. Here's 1, 2, 3 hours, and 20 plus 15 minutes is 35 minutes. So definitely use your number line in your clock for this. Okay, my last problem is the last type. It says Vanessa spent 2 hours and 25 minutes listening to music on her MP3 player. If she started at 4:10, what time was it when she finished? So I know she started at 4:10, and I want to know what time it was when she finished. So I am finding the end time. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write 4:10 down here, and I'm going to reset my clock for 4:10. Here's 4 o'clock, here's 4:10. And it says that she spent 2 hours and 25 minutes listening to music. So if I know I start at 4:10, I want to go 2 hours. I'll just add 1 hour. That's going to be 5:10. I got to add another hour. That's going to be 6:10. And it says 25 minutes. Well, this time, if I add 25 minutes to 10, that's going to get me 35, and I can do that because I'm not crossing over an hour or anything like that. But let's see what happens if I add 25 minutes. And you'll probably notice that I'm marking these as minutes and hours because that does make a difference. Okay, 25 minutes, that means I'm going to skip count by the 5s 5 times. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Hey, that worked. I knew that 10 plus 25 was 35. So I can say Vanessa ended listening to her music at 6:35. Now I know that this was kind of a crash course. I know that elapsed time is one of the harder things that we teach. So if you're stuck on this today, I want you to email me and let me know so that I can work with you. But I do want you to use the clock online. I do want you to take your time, and I want you to use a number line. And I want you to really just think about what's happening, what type of problem you've got going on. You can do this. You just may need to use some tools. All right, good luck. I look forward to seeing what you come up with.